me to participate in this workshop, and I'm quite excited to be here and learn from you, and also share some of our studies with you. Up to now, I think we're coming to this final two presentations, and I found out some of my talk may be a little bit different from the context of the previous talk. And in fact, why I'm interested in the mobility study is because most of the Chinese researchers are very interested into seeing how China will go in the future, because for the past 100 years or maybe 150 years, Chinese scholars are mainly interested in this, how China is developing or coping with the situations, how it is catch up with the international world. So the whole research or academic world is really focusing on this issue. And the mobility is very much linked with the Chinese modernizations, because like 100 years ago, China's culture is still discourage mobility. For instance, like the first picture, even they have to move due to of these disasters, they are moved as a family in clans. Individual mobility is really considered as the excel. Is peoples were normally put into prison because they are in individual mobile. And after when New China was established, and also mobility was not encouraged, we still use hukou to let the people to stay with their home. So the only mobility are organized by the countries like this. So these young peoples are organized to go to the countryside by Chairman Mao. So that was how mobility was organized. And in that process, these peoples were normally mobilized to be a labor. So that is how the situation. Now what I mean is the mobility culture was not really there before. And so this is before this transition period. In fact, what we have is a strong government and the individuals which are managed or which are planned by the government, like the group mobilities. So it's very simple structures, and also the traditional cultures was not encouraged. It was not promoted. But now we come into the transition period. The government is reducing some of the power, and market came into the power. And now the societies, because of the influence of the market economy, so the individuals also began to search for this freedom. But because this is a short transition period, in fact, the relationship between the central government and the market and the society was not really integrated well. So meanwhile, our traditional culture seems to be come back. It's like a very strong resilient society coming back, and it works. And how it will go, we don't know. So that is why my interest is to see how the China's going. So, and then if we come to these mobility issues, then we can see that during the transition period, the first large scale mobility is coming from the floating labors, because when the market comes, they need a lot of cheap labor. And these cheap labors are from the rural areas. And although not encouraged, but because the market is there, the capital is working, so these peoples can find jobs in these urban areas. And they have to be migrant between their hometown and these urban areas, because they don't have the hukou registrations there. And I think this has been studied quite substantially. And the main conclusion will be that always the criticize of the Chinese government because they don't lose this hukou system. So these peoples like the international migration, the cheap labors. But still we can see the urbanization process during this period was so rapidly. And several years ago, it is the first time that China's urban people has surpassed this rural people. But as we studied, we can see that they are really mobile to survive, to get the jobs. So maybe it's very different from the international, especially the developed countries. And then later we see another biggest mobility, that is my study area, is the tourist. So when people get rich, as I said, the Chinese for the past 30 years, really economies growth. So tourist as a consumer is very much encouraged politically and also in the market economy. So you see the tremendous growth of this domestic tourist. And this is during the Golden Week because the government encouraged this travel in the Golden Week. They canceled the toll fare, so the highways were packed by this. And we studied some of these domestic tourists. What we found out is, they are quite like normal consumers because there's a very short consumption places. But the interest is they make the tremendous impact on the destinations. So normally the studies of the modernizations with the tourists is to see how these local destinations are changing because of the tourists. But the tourists themselves haven't really generated too much result because they're short experience and they are really for leisures and etc. So this cannot really help us to answer the questions what this Chinese society would be in the future. And so recently we found out there's a new patterns of these lifestyle migrants, and we found it is very interesting. The reason is because in the Western countries, it's also after 1970s that these lifestyle migrants are researched. So we see maybe it's interesting to compare the difference of the lifestyle migrants in China and in the Western countries because they are at the similar time, and but maybe because of the context difference, we can see some of the different social structures and behind this. So we found that two areas which received as retired migrants. One is in the Hainan Island, this tropical island, which is developing as an international tourist destination. Another is the inner areas, minority areas, which received also a lot of tourists. It's the World Heritage Site. And these two are different. And this is mainly attract the retired migrants. And this attract is the lifestyle entrepreneur, tourist entrepreneur. So, and then you see that the difficult situation of China is we haven't get rich, but we already enter into the aging society. So the society is shocked that we need to afford so much aging population. We're not prepared for it. And for this international tourist destinations, because as you see, it's far away from the mainland, so it's a periphery regions. But they still under the pressure to develop the economics. So the main strategy they develop is to rely on the tourist. And as a normal tourist, it's difficult to boost the economy, so they mainly rely on the tourist, the real estate, to build so much second home and attract these retired migrants. So we see that this migrant, the profile of the migrants is late 50s to early 70s. They are old couples and many from the north part of China. And the interesting is they come first to buy the cheap houses in Hainan, which are very much supply driven. So you see, these are this new acquired land from the farmers to build the house. And these are the advertisements by the locals. So these are the big high buildings, so different from the, here, these are the apartment, gated apartment bought by these retired people. And the push factors as many for health. As I said, those people, because of retreat of the government, these people suddenly found out these medical fees are very high. So the health become very important for Chinese people. Before it was not so much high priority. And also, this is the only time that they are away from their children, so they don't need to take care of their grandchildren. And they are supported by their children to buy the houses because they think it's an investment. It can be also given to their children. And when they come to here, so they formed the group. This migrants, they only interacted with themselves. They mainly relied on this Laoxiang. We came from the same areas and very little interaction with the locals. So this is Laoxiang circles. It's like a very loose communities, but there is no formal like rules or regulations. They just play together and help each other if needed. It's easy in and easy out. And these are the locals communities, so it's a dual society. So you see the difference. And then another area is lifestyle entrepreneurs, and it's in the southeast of China. And we see this is the minority areas. And those people, those young people are mainly from the coastal land. They get some education, quite good educations, and were employed in the big companies, but they get tired of this working in this how to say companies. They wanted to have their own way of life, a control of themselves, and also to find a balance of work and life balance. It's quite like an individualist news in China. And there was the two kinds. One is they get some money so they can start the business. Another is the working tourists who work in those small enterprises. And normally they know that they will not be there for very long because they only be there for 3 to 2 years. And this is also quite different from some of these Dutch entrepreneurs in Sweden. Who prepared there for very long. But here, people know that they cannot be there for very long. It's just like a temporary escape. And the pull factor is really the good environment and it's a flexible working condition. And push one is really escape, trying to find a new way of control their own life, which was not really there in China. Before China is you work for the country. And similar is they have no interaction with locals because they think locals are very conservative. They're still working very hard. They don't know how to search for the individual values. So they are different. They are very modern. They want their own way of life.